Hello and welcome to episode 14 of Getting Creative with Lytro. We're your host. I'm Andrew Sale.
Oh, and I'm Dave Zaboski. Oh,
I
good
know
morning.
typically I introduced you, but I thought today I'll just mix it up because why
You just
not?
woke me up right there.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
am I on? Is this mic on?
yeah. It's all good. Dave, we're so excited about today because it's St. Patrick's Day. I don't
Oh,
know
yeah, that's right. Oh,
if you can
my.
tell. I'm living into the full St. Patrick. I'm Irish, so like I feel like this is a requirement of me.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Ireland?
I have not been to Ireland. No, I've been to England a few times. I know that that's kind of anathema to all that. And I'm not wearing green right now.
You're not.
So I've got some friends over. I'm going to have to sneak into my room and figure out how to get some green on before.
Do you have real pinchy friends?
Yeah, they're traditionalists. I think they stick to I keep saying, hey, I'm Jewish, man. Leave me alone. But it doesn't seem to work.
Ugh. I went to Ireland many years ago with my
Is that where you
parents.
got your nice tam right there? That's awesome.
I think I got this tam from Old Navy.
All right.
You
Yeah.
know, the most Irish of places.
Mhm.
No, but I did go with my family because I am Irish, and we went to I think it was in Belfast, may have been in Dublin. I'm not sure. It was one of those two places, but they have this sculpture. So apropos of this show, I think you would really appreciate this life-size sculpture that takes up a pretty good portion of like a city street, and it is a commemorative statue for the potato famine, and it's just these haunting, like almost obsidian, like black obsidian sculptures of these emaciated people with
Mm,
packs
mm,
on their back and little children and all this. It's a
mm,
crazy beautiful, but it is very haunting. And
mm,
so every year, typically whenever I think about Ireland, I think about that plus like the lush green landscape. But
mm.
speaking of lush landscapes, you took a drive this past week and you had some fun. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your trip, Dave? How was
Yeah, well,
that?
my trip was through Los Angeles, which was a little bit less lush, but I landed in San Diego at the Hotel del Coronado, which is a historic hotel. It's 140 years old or something like that. It's spectacular. And I was there for a conference um, on the next stages of health and wellness. And so it was this really amazing conference on the crossroads of technology, the technology of health. And technology you can kind of think about as a way to get replicable results, not just things that you plug into the wall.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
you had amazing creators there from folks who were linking every system in a hospital so that AI could help wrap it all together so you could get massive data from people in hospitals to make care better, to Paul Stamets, who spoke about mushrooms and the power of mycology. It was an amazing, amazing conference. Like everybody on stage was up to something incredible.
Yeah, and that seemingly was the case based on some of your posts, but also the venue looked rad. You had like everyone was sitting in what looked like really like plush beanbag chairs, like
Oh,
corduroy beanbag chairs. Like
oh
it
yeah,
was
no, this was one of those conferences where it's an A plus conference. Like the first row is beanbag chairs, the second row is couches, the third and fourth row are like armchairs, and then there's these cush chairs. There's no like, it was not conference room chairs, it was
no.
just like everybody was really well taken care of. And people like Ken Dykewald spoke. Ken is one of like he spoke about aging and the whole study of how we, as we get older, we have some choices. We either stay the same, we go down, or we go up. And then
Yeah.
there's a whole actuarial study on what happens to an aging population as those things happen. And man, Ken is one of the best speakers in the world. He gave a master class on how to connect to an audience.
That's awesome. I yeah, it looked unlike what I was expecting when you said you were going to like what a medical conference, right? Like it's really like medicine and technology and just the whole like the coalescence of all of these different things, and it really showed up in what the conference looked like. So I'm glad that you went and had an awesome time.
Yeah, I actually got to speak from the stage as well about the power of story. And what's really exciting about a conference like this is that what we do, especially at Lytros, we look for that place where there's a kindred quest, that place
Yeah.
where the heroes come together. And so we can use our inimitable skills to rise each other up. We have so many amazing creatives in all of these different disciplines. And
Yeah.
so listening for a place where multiple disciplines come together is a really nice fit for us. And so I spoke about the power of story and how to tell better stories. And this is a cohort of folks who really have amazing stories to tell, and it would be great to help them tell their stories.
Yeah, I love it. And so, I mean, I think that's a perfect way to jump into our conversation this morning because we are going to be sitting down with one of those creatives inside of our cohort. This is the show that's all about that collaborative crossroads of marketing and brands, and where the creatives and storytellers they come together. And this is what this show is all about. What you were just talking about, Dave. And so, with that, this episode we're going to sit down with senior motion designer Chris Calderon. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I should have asked this ahead of time, but we were a
Mm,
little bit behind schedule, so it's either Calderon or Calderon. We'll find out in a second. But
or
Chris,
Christ?
yeah,
Is it?
something. It might be Christ. Yeah, we'll find out. He is in San Antonio, so it could be any number of pronunciations. I've learned this over the
Oh,
years.
yeah, he's close to you. That's nice.
Yeah, we're gonna get coffee. Chris's experience in marketing and advertising in this industry has earned him opportunities to animate and design for brands and creative studios like Disney Plus, Paramount, Instacart, Samsung, MasterClass, Microsoft. I mean, the list goes on. But though his professional skill set is varied and he's done several things, his real passion lies in the field of character design and motion graphics. So today we're going to spend some time discussing the benefits of being multifaceted and how it helps in building a well rounded portfolio. So, without further ado, please join us in welcoming Chris to the show. Chris, good to see you, buddy.
Hey guys,
So,
Hey,
right off the
welcome.
bat, we need to know, how do you pronounce your last name? Because I should have asked this off air, but this, you're getting a little bit of how the sausage is made right now.
I've heard it several ways. So it's Calderon,
Calderon,
Calderon, Calderon. I mean, I've heard it all, so it doesn't bother me.
Jake.
Yeah, like
So we'll just, whatever it is that we address you as, that's how you respond. I love it. I
I'm going to
I,
yeah,
I
stick with
like that.
Chris.
yes, whatever you want
Um,
to call me. Go ahead.
So, Chris, thank you so much for joining us today. We're super excited to chat with you. Your work is phenomenal. Give us the quick Wikipedia page of who you are and where you come from.
Um, well, I'm here based in San Antonio, Texas. I've been blessed to work for many different types of brands. I've worked on everything from UI UX for like mobile and web applications, prototyping. I've shot interviews. I've done video editing, character animation. That all led me to the world of motion design and where I can combine design and motion together, which is what I truly love. So that's who I am in a nutshell.
I love it. Dave likes to ask this question about, like, what is at your core essence. How do you ask that question, Dave? One of these days I'll
I,
learn
I
it.
like I like to get outside of the nutshell. Like,
Yeah.
look at you have you seem to have a passion for media and capturing stories in a bunch of different ways, and especially stories that are imaginative. Like, you've done work with the camera, but a lot of it is really imaginative work. Can you track like where that root is back in your childhood? Is there a place where you were just like, I love telling stories, or I love playing with these things? Is there a place, like we often see, like guys who played Dungeons and Dragons credit that for being the source of their deep imagination and commitment to fantasy. Like, is there a place for you? You don't just start as a motion graphics guy and going to a school like Incarnate Word where there's some amazing stuff. You've won incredible awards. Like, where did that fuse get lit for you?
I think at an early age, when I was little, I feel like I'm the youngest of three. I have two older sisters. We were I think we were introduced to a lot of different creative outlets. My older sister was in band, so as growing up, I could hear the piano playing. Growing up, my grandparents, they were DJs, so we heard a lot of Tejano music, a lot of oldies but goodies. as
DJs like your grandparents were DJs.
not,
I don't
not
think I've
Put me
ever heard
down
that
on that
sentence
one.
before. Yeah.
not like Tiesto and all that kind of stuff. They're
Right, so
more
your
like,
grandma's on the ones and twos just going
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
no, literally, they were. They had, my grandpa had cases of CDs and all that kind of stuff. So I absorbed all that music. I mean, we watched cartoons. My middle sister, she played the flute, the piccolo. She played the piano. I was in high school. I played trumpet. My dad is a full time. He works at a print shop. So
Mm,
he would come home with just boxes of paper and stuff like that.
I
So
love it.
that's where I would, I think that's where I would chicken scratch all over those papers. And my parents, I was blessed to have parents that encouraged that kind of thing, and they saw something in me, and they just continued to encourage me to draw, basically.
I love
nice,
that.
right. Right,
Yeah.
like a print shop is a throughput for a bunch of creativity. I'm sure you saw all kinds of things coming through there.
Oh yeah, my dad will come home. He still does. He does it till this day. He comes
Mm,
home. You look at his hands, and his hands tell the story alone. His hands are full of ink. His hands
mm.
are full of paper cuts. I get a lot of the way who I am from different aspects of how I grew up and who I am. And then I got introduced to how I can combine design, because I truly love design as well. And going to Incarnate Word, during that time, we were mainly told that we need to focus on kind of one outlet, one creative outlet. You're
Yeah.
either a character designer, you're either a character modeler, you're either an environment person, environment artist. But in my head, I knew when my career came, wherever my journey took me, I wanted to use a full skill set. I wanted to be a really big asset to any team that they could put me on. Um, so I kind of stayed in that mindset, whereas a lot of other people kind of stayed siloed to one thing. Um, I continued to talk a lot of different designers. The designers were right across the hallway, so I got to pick their brain on design elements and design things. I would go home and watch YouTube, try to learn Photoshop, try to learn Illustrator,
Hmm.
the whole creative Adobe suite. That way, I could use it in the 3D world as well.
Yeah.
Um, so um, and
Did
that
you have did you have some like influences from the world of design, like people who not just the mentors that you say that you were talking to, were there like some legendary folks who you're like, oh, that career looks cool?
No, honestly, going to school, I was really bad at that. I didn't know. I didn't know what motion design was. I didn't even know you can combine design and animation at the time. All I knew was that somehow, some way, I wanted to be in a position where I can combine the two every single day,
Mm.
because I loved both aspects, and also I wanted something. I was kind of worried. I had that imposter syndrome. I didn't think I was
Yeah.
ready when I left college, so I
Mm,
wanted something else
mm,
to kind of, if I didn't make it in the 3D world, I could fall back as a graphic designer, right? Or I
mm.
could fall back on something else. So I was really worried leaving school, because I didn't know if I'd make it in the 3D world. I didn't know if I'd make it at all. So
Right.
I just wanted something to fall back on.
I mean, even knowing just what the disciplines are out there, I went to, I graduated from college with 2 degrees and worked in a law firm for a little while before I went to art school. And I was like, I think I need to go to art school. I think I want to do graphic design. I didn't even really know what graphic design was. I put together a portfolio, took it to Art Center, one of the top art schools, said, hey, here's my graphic design portfolio. And they looked at my portfolio like, there's no way this is not a graphic design. You should look at illustration. I was like, oh, what's illustration? Like, I didn't even know what the
Yeah.
Yeah,
difference was. Walked it across the hall to the illustration department, and 3 weeks later, I got an acceptance from them. It's like, how all of these different sort of, I think that like me, you're a storyteller, and
hmm
that these are tools to tell stories, and then we've kind of siloed and divided all of them so that you can turn it into a living. But I really appreciate your sort of multidisciplined approach, so that you can, one, be an asset to whatever team you're working on, but
hmm
also be able to tell the story completely. I
yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Yeah.
I think what stands out to me in hearing that a bit of your origin story is, as much as you say you didn't really have, you were bad, I think you said, at doing the research of who you could aspire to be in those fields, you more than made up for in your desire for community and a sense of like self-driven or self-motivated learning.
Hmm.
Like you said, there were the people were across the hall
Yeah.
from you, and you would go over and you can chat with them, and you would go over them and learn from them because you saw, oh, these are tools that I don't yet have, and I'm going to add them, like Dave said, to my toolbox. And you're a what like a jack of all trades, right? And I think we'll find as we hear more about your story and as we talk more about your career that that has suited you really well. And one of the key pieces of that is this idea of community and having people around you. So what does that look like for you? Is that a value of yours? Do you seek that out no matter what position you're in or whatever project you're on?
Yeah, so I mean, I learn from those around me. So I look for, the teams that I've been a part of. I've been super, I keep saying I'm super blessed, but I've been super blessed to be a part of like really, really good teams because I've been a part of really bad teams, really teams that don't really help and don't
Yeah.
really are selfless and not about themselves. So as I began freelancing, um, it opened a whole new door of what a team is. It opened a whole new door of I'm able to go well, now virtually I'm able to talk to other motion graphic designers that have been doing it for longer than I've been alive, and I'm able to pick their brain and learn tools that they use, different plugins, different ways of animating, making my animation a lot smoother. So and also another part of that really helps me is the people I surround myself with. I feel like the people that I've really surrounded myself with really uplift me every single day because this isn't easy, and
Yeah.
I can really get in my head, especially with all the work that I've been doing. Last year was probably one of the best years of my life because I was just like, go, go, go. I need to be talking to this person. I need to set up the next contract. I need to get on LinkedIn and message like 10 recruiters a day, so I was like, go, 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 go. Um, but the people that I've had around me, they encourage me. They tell me like, hey, Chris, you need to slow down a little bit. Don't always say yes. Learn how to say no. And
Mm.
it's things that I'm learning. As I go, and the community and the people that I have around me has really really helped me do that and make sure that my mind is right. Make sure that I'm focused on the right things.
Mm.
And especially like my health and stuff like that. So
That's
Right.
yeah, that's a
Yeah,
huge piece. Yeah.
it
It's
really is.
really easy to not to let that stuff go, especially when you do a job where you're remote, right? You're working from home. You can easily stay in one spot all day long, in front of a
Sitting down,
screen.
getting
Yeah.
punched over with every project.
Yeah, it's almost like everything that we do, the 3 of us sitting in this call right now, is the exact opposite of what is conducive for a healthy lifestyle. So it takes a really intentional and deliberate step, to make time for your physical, emotional, uh, whatever, mental health, because it can easily go away. And you talk
Totally.
about your family being supportive, your parents being supportive of you. How crucial is that in how this plays out for you now? And now that you have a career that's being fleshed out, and you've got accolades, and you've got, you've made some traction and some headway in this industry. How big does family play into that now for you?
I think I just worry about making them proud, regardless of the brands I've worked for, the allocates, all, the list goes on. I think I still, and I think we all have that imposter syndrome. We don't think we're doing enough. I want to go bigger. I want to do this and that.
So
If
what would you describe, like, if you had an ideal gig, like, what's a great gig for you?
Yeah, what's bigger?
bigger, since I enjoyed doing a lot of things at one time. I think a big thing would be for me later on, or I don't know when, to be a part of the bigger picture. Not just somebody moving a pixel all the time. I want to be a part of the overall
Like
process of a project.
like
Uh,
the story development,
yeah,
the
yeah,
ideation, that kind of thing.
Direction?
exactly. Direction. I want to be, if I'm even thinking bigger, the Oscars just happened. I want to be a part of an Oscar winning project. I want to be, uh, you know, um, that's that I think that's big. But even then, if I get there, I don't even know how I'd feel. I want to, and then I want to be like you, Dave. I want to be a Disney artist. That's
Mm, mm.
I'm a huge Disney person. That was my dream as a kid, and it'll always be my dream. So I have a
Nice.
lot of dreams. So
I think that one of the things that I really love about us creatives is there's this desire to continue to rise. There's this quote that I found from Hokusai when I was like 21 or 22, and I was like, oh, that guy. And Hokusai is a Japanese brush painter from the middle 1800s who did what you might he did 36 views of Mount Fuji. One of them is that very famous wave with the boat on it
Oh,
with
yeah.
Fuji in the background, right? So you've seen it like I think Ocean Pacific used it as their logo for a little while. So you've seen his work. He's one of the best draftsmen in the history of making marks on things. And he said, and I'm going to paraphrase this. He said, "I've done a universe of drawing in my life. I'm 73 as I write this. I only begun to understand. I'd only begun to understand making marks when I was 53. When I'm 83, I'll know how animals move. When I'm 93, I'll know the essence of people. When I'm 103, he said, every dot, every line will jump to life as never before." And then he finishes by saying, uh, um, I challenge all of you to be witness to the truth of this statement, and I am no longer known as Hokusai, but the old man crazy about drawing.
Wow.
And I saw that and I was like, wow, man, that's how I want it to go. Like always listening for that edge for my creation. And I feel the same from you. Like, what is that next big project? I don't know, but as long as I'm leaning up against my edge, that's the place where I want to go.
exactly, yeah. Another thing, I love to be challenged. So if you give me a challenge and you say, I used to work next to a guy that would be given a task or a project, and he'd be like, "Nah, well, I don't think you can do it. I don't think you can." But he would do it mainly to motivate me. He would do it, and I'd be in my head. I'd be like, "No, I can do this. I can do this." And
Yeah.
10, 15 minutes later, he'd be like, "Oh, you did more than I asked."
Yeah.
Um, that's what
It
I
fe
love.
it feels good to prove people wrong, right? Like, I know that's like I know that we talk a lot about having encouragement and having motivations and things like that, and the idea of having, like, a support system. We've even mentioned it several times already in this conversation, but sometimes in the right context, negative input can be just as motivating. I remember the first time I set out to run a half marathon, and people, my friends, laughed at me and said it would never happen, that the people were going to have to pick me up in the truck like 2 miles in, like all of these things. And at mile 12 or mile 11 and a half or something like that, my very first half marathon, I wanted to stop, and I thought the only thing that kept me going was I need to prove these people wrong,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
how good it was gonna feel to hold up that medal at the end in their face. And so I totally get this idea that sometimes that input can be motivating, and especially if he's not doing it maliciously. If he knows that's a motivator for you, then maybe that's even better, right?
Oh,
Like
he knew. He knew. Yeah,
a true friend, right? Like it might not
yeah,
sound like it just by the words, but the motivation behind it is something that can be super intentional and super helpful.
yeah.
Um, you you talk, Dave. You said to Dave that like one of your dream jobs is to you say to Dave that one of your dream jobs is to do what Dave has done. How does that make you feel, Dave, to know that you have done, you have lived a lot of people's dream jobs? Because I'm there with Chris. Chris and I are both sitting here openly saying like we would love, our dream job is to one day do the thing that you have done and you've accomplished. What does that feel like for you?
Oh, I don't want this podcast to be about me.
I know,
You
but
know,
Chris is
uh,
saying the right stuff.
I want to know. I want to
well,
know.
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah, I want to
Right.
know.
All right. So let me offer just a slightly different angle, if I may. Um, uh, I was the same way, challenging myself, but had a core of a message in me that you're not enough. Like you're like I got a D plus in high school art. I never took an art class in college. I got into art school by collecting the drawings and paintings I'd done for friends for their birthdays. Even when I got into art school, I never felt like I was enough. So I was charging on everything. I did drawings of all of my classmates. I was constantly in a sketchbook. That message of I'm not enough was also a real motivator to push me to really build my skills. And so when things like the Disney internship came up, well, I was like, oh, I'm probably not enough for this, but you know what? Let me go for it because I want to challenge myself. I want to battle that voice in me that says I'm not enough and go F you, right? Eventually to get to a place where I could answer that or have a conversation with that voice that was actually really honest. Because at first it's not. You just think I'm not enough for anything. I applied to Disney 3 times. The first 2 times I was in the top 50 and I didn't make the top 15 to go to Florida for the internship. The third time when I actually won the internship, it was in Los Angeles, literally 4 blocks from my house. And so there's almost this like disappointment, like, oh,
Yeah.
I just got tickets to the World Series and it's the Dodgers in my hometown. It's okay, great. That's kind of neat. But I'm not going to Florida and, taking a break from art school, which was very, very challenging. And so then they told us that there'd be 2 or 3 positions at Disney. And when I got there, I realized that this was a place where creativity was paramount. Like creativity flourished in that place. And there were incredible creatives who I could learn from. And I just sunk my teeth into it. Like I was a dog with a bone. I was like, they got 3 spots. I'm getting one of these spots.
Yeah.
And so all of the places where I thought I'm not enough, man, those are the places that I worked on. I see the same thing in you where you go, oh, there's this whole creative suite. Well, what about motion graphics? What about, After Effects? What about character design? Like all of these things where you recognize that piece that says I'm not enough can actually motivate you to be enough to the
Mhm.
point where you get to a place where you go, yeah, I got this.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a powerful place. And you can have that whether you work at Disney or wherever. At Disney, it was constantly in your face. I had one of my mentors when I was kind of bemoaning, I think, the 24th pass I did on a scene of John Smith, 125 drawings. And the deadline was, imminent. And I was like, come on, isn't this enough? And he goes, hey, man, maybe you be the judge, but imagine your drawings blown up 100 times their original size, shown in front of millions of people all over the world forever. And then you just be like, oh, okay, can I live with that? Right. And so it's a constant battle that we have to be able to be in that space where am I enough and to be able to answer it. Working for Disney was like working in the chocolate factory. Yeah, you were surrounded by amazing creatives all the time. In a way, that ecosystem is not really available for us anymore. It's one of the reasons why we built Lytro, so we could have conversations like this and uplift each other and have an ecosystem where
Mhm.
creatives could work on a freelance but still have a community. And I
Yeah.
think that for me, that was the biggest part of being at Disney. The projects we actually didn't really know that we were legendary at the time, because we're inside of it. I was just like working 90 hours a week. I'd ride my bike home with my scenes in my head.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But what I did know was that I was working with incredible creatives who I loved and who were amazing and whose generosity made my skills get better. And those guys, man, I run into those guys at the comic book conventions or at a event or at a funeral. And it's just like the love is still there because we knew we were there for each other.
Hmm.
That's
And
great.
so
Yeah.
that piece I think is replicable wherever you work, not just in a place like Disney.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's super helpful and inspirational and helps kind of set back on track because there are only a handful of people who get to do these things that so many people want to do. And so rather than feel let down, use it as a motivator to create that environment wherever you are, right? Collaborate with these people wherever you are and learn from people wherever you are. And that seems like a thing that you like to do, Chris, just based on just hearing you talk and even chatting in our Slack channel before all of this, just getting to hear your heart and see your passion behind things. What is it about? There you go. Generous collaboration is everything.
Hmm.
Um,
That's right.
Yeah, thanks,
what
Brett.
what is it about? What is it about this concept of bringing motion and design together that is so like ingrained in you that is such a like what is it about that makes you get up in the morning and makes you excited?
I don't. It's just fascinating to me the thing that we have the ability to bring both worlds together. You know, at one single moment to tell a story, whether it's for an ad, whether it's for a film, or a small motion graphic here and there. Um, the reason I got introduced to it though was like I said, I like to be challenged, right? Uh, my grandma passed away a few years ago. Um, I would always tell her how at the time I was working at the bakery at HEB. Not that it's a bad job, it's just as a creative, I didn't like to be making bread all day, right?
You were
So
making those tortillas that everyone loves, though.
I didn't make those. I didn't make those.
Okay, all right. Well,
Yeah.
maybe one day you can get to be the tortilla guy.
But I mean, I would tell her all the time how much I hated it, and I was here doing little small projects here and there, right? Um, she passed away, right? And I wrote a letter to her saying, you're my, now that you're my closest angel, just help me and guide me. You know how much I
Mm.
I hate my position right now. Just help me. Put the letter, wrote the letter, put it in her casket. Um,
Mm.
Wow.
when she passed away, hours later she passed away. When they lowered her to the ground. I was walking away from the site, right, and I get a phone call, and it's from the USAA headquarters, saying they're looking for a motion graphics artist. Do you know sound design? Do you know this? Do you know that? Do you know this, that? At the time, I didn't know anything at all. At the time, I didn't know anything at all.
But
All I
the
knew was
answer is
3D animation.
yes, I do.
Yes,
I
and
sure can.
so yeah, I was like, I think about it. Went to the gym, talked to a friend, and was like, "Hey, man, like, should I lie?" But like, I'm not lying. I know I can do this, right? Um, so ended up calling back. Hey, I can do all of this.
I'm your
I
guy.
am the guy.
Yeah.
I am the guy. And I went in knowing nothing. I remember setting my phone up on my keyboard and looking at After Effects and the stuff I had to do, and just Googling stuff. And during my lunch break, I'd watch tutorials. When I went home, I'd watch tutorials. Falling asleep, I'd watch tutorials on my phone.
Nice.
That's how I got introduced to the whole world of like, hey, I can actually combine design and animation at one time, which I never knew before that.
Yeah. Thank you,
I
Grandma.
know.
That worked fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I believe she's. Yesterday was her birthday, and
Oh,
now we're talking.
nice.
Yeah.
So
Well, happy birthday. Well, I
you
think
know,
Louis Pasteur said fortune favors the prepared mind. And that was you. Like
Hmm.
you had a fortunate opportunity. And then the ability to say yes and execute is also the other half of it. It's not just luck, it's opportunity meets preparation.
hmm hmm
Yeah.
yep,
Nice.
That's exactly what I was thinking. And you are a person who does not shy away from the fire, right? Like you jump in and you go after it. And I love that. I
I've
love
been
that
in
so
many,
much.
I've been in
Hey,
many
I,
fires.
I
So
I have a kind of technical question if I can. So, in the world of design, we now have this kind of spectrum of design. So you have like graphic designers, and then that graphic design sort of starts to move over into the technical side. So UI, user interface. Then there's user experience, and then there's
yeah,
sort of motion that kind of fits into it. Would you help us understand a little bit about like what is motion graphics and how does design fit into that? Like, just to explain, we use motion graphics a lot. Like, what is it?
Motion graphics, man, there's so many different meanings about motion graphics, motion design in general. The way I describe it, because a lot of people, when they ask me like, "Hey, what do you do? Like, what's your title?" Right? And I say, "Oh, I'm a senior motion designer." And they're like, what is that, right? The way I
Exactly. Yeah.
describe
What
it
is going
is,
on with you?
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, are you an animator or what? I like to describe myself as, um, the whole package of a designer and the whole package of an animator all in one, right? I think as a
Mm.
designer, you have to have the ability to know what's going on in design and animation, and combining the two is a whole nother different story, right? Um, Creatively, the way like in UI UX, um, combining motion with interactions like button interactions, or just
Mhm.
swiping to the next screen, and it's all in there. And a lot of people today don't really notice those things, but it's so satisfying to us, right? And there's a
Yeah.
reason why it's so satisfying. There's a reason why we like a certain application. Like my favorite application right now is Duolingo, and it has everything that I think motion design is, right? Especially in UI UX, and how user friendly it is, and the little animated characters that pop up here and there, and
Yeah.
the achievements. It makes you feel good, right? That's all what user experience is. And I was able to dabble in that for a couple years, and it was a whole crazy world for me. Like I said, I've been thrown in many fires, so that was one of the fires I was put in for a while.
I wanna say that hearing you talk, it sounds like what you're more concerned with rather than the technical aspects of it is you want to help people feel something. You
Yeah.
want someone to have an experience and feel good about it, and you want it to feel right when they look at something. So that's where the design comes in, and you want it to feel right when they do something, and that's where the and you want it to look right, right? You want it to look like something that connects to somebody.
Right, it's
Um,
like a psychology of design that you're
yeah.
involved in, and it
Yeah.
has to feel some way, but you also have these tools that you use.
Yeah.
Right. I believe that I spend a lot of time structuring things before I dive into it. I spend a lot of time planning things out before I just jump in. And before I jump into anything, there's probably hours and days of me watching things on YouTube, or
Mm.
collecting things and images on Pinterest that I've seen, or stuff like that, before I even dive into some, even regardless if it's a personal project or a project for a client, or agency or studio that I'm working with. I truly believe, and that's anywhere, that the structure has to be established before diving into
So
it.
let me ask a real practical question then, kind of back off some of the ethereal stuff for a moment. When you're working with a client and a client has a timeline, right? And they have a very specific timeline, a very specific deadline, and we all know what that looks like, right? Um,
Mhm.
how upfront are you in the process when you're working with a client? You started working with someone new to say, "Hey, this is my process. Trust me, it's gonna be it may take an extra day or two, or may take whatever, but the process is what gets the results." Like, how do you communicate with your clients when they may have a discrepancy with when they might just say, "Hey, just jump in and we'll iterate later." But that's not
Mhm.
necessarily how you roll. How do you communicate that and work well within the confines of collaboration with people?
I mean, I do just that. I establish and let them know from the beginning, this is how I work. This is the process I go through. These are the steps I go through. Here's examples of how it worked.
Hmm.
Here's examples of where it's at now. I give them everything up front. That way they have no question to give me the time that I need, right?
Yeah.
I've also worked with other clients that are just like you said, like, hey, like, we need this tomorrow. Can you do it? And I just got to work with what I have, depending on who it is, depending on who it's for, depending on what the deadline is for.
Hmm.
But I've also worked with clients that, because before I came into like the freelance game, I was so used to be given a deadline, and that's your deadline. That's it. You can't go over it. you can't get close to
Yeah.
it. It's got to be done maybe two days before that deadline, right?
Especially
And
That
we
way,
have
working.
an infinite amount of revs before the deadline.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
yes.
It can we can revise it up until the actual deadline. Yeah,
Right.
you were working for USAA, right? Like that's not a
Uh,
terribly flexible. Like there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to that, right? Like is that one of the companies that has these really kind of strict deadlines?
no, they were great.
Okay,
They were great. I was saying, maybe like other agencies I was with
okay,
that were just like, this is the deadline, and it needs to be done here.
yeah,
Don't come to me and
mhm,
and say you can't finish it, right? So when I came into the freelance world, um, this is why I say like the teams I've been a part of, I've been blessed to be a part of teams like this that are just so selfless and ready to help you, right? And they know you need the time because they're in the same world as you, so they know like you're not this superhuman artist that can get this done in 1 to 2 days. You need at least a week or whatever,
yeah,
depending on the project, right? So coming in to these teams, and they're so relaxed and like, yeah, hey, the deadline is Friday. Let me know. We can give you another week, right? Or we can give you 3 more days.
yeah,
If we need to push it out, if you need to push it out, let me know, right? I was never used to that, right?
Mm.
Um, so now I know and I can tell, and now I'm more confident, especially with who I've worked for and the work I've done. Um, I'm able to tell clients like, hey, like this is my time. If you come back with any revisions, anything like that, well, this is going to push it out maybe 1 to 2, 3
yeah,
days.
Mhm.
I want to give you the best product possible, and you will get the best product possible if you just give me the time.
Right, like the deadline is quality, like the bar is quality. Like Carlo Ortiz talks about that. Like do great work. Like that's the bottom line. Is you do great work and then you get to do great work.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Right.
you're creating proofs of concept, right? Like you said, now that you've got enough under your belt, when you go to new clients and when new clients approach you, you can say, "Hey, here's how my system works, and here is the result of that. Like here's and these are the very things that made you want to work with me. So let's figure out how we can work this process together." Um,
Yeah.
so shifting gears just a little bit because I see this wall behind you that's got NBA Jam and you've got some toys and you've got some things back there. What type?
Oh,
There's a lot happening back there. Oh
Oh,
yeah, okay,
nice.
even more up there. I see a classic Mickey up there. I see. Oh gosh, there's lots of stuff. Um,
it's all.
You
what
have a chorus behind you.
You do. What kind of media do you like to take in? Like what is it when you're not working, capital W working? What is it that you like to take in and like to do to consume?
I go to the gym a lot, so I've been hitting the gym hard this year,
Okay.
and whereas last year, like I said, I was go, and I had to back pocket the gym for a while
Mm.
because of all the projects I was getting. So this year, I'm taking it slow. I've been going to the gym at least 4 to 5 times a week. Just competed in a competition last weekend. So just like you, I got a medal,
Yeah.
What
Andrew.
what was the
Um,
competition?
it's called Deca Strong, and it's more of like you have 10 zones, 10 different workouts, and you
Oh
got to
yeah.
finish in under 30 minutes.
Okay.
Uh, so that's what my girlfriend and I did. So that's one outlet that I take. I like to go to the gym. I just like to get in the zone, do my thing, come home, and get back to work. Another thing I love is basketball over
Yeah.
here.
I picked
Basketball.
up on that.
Um,
Context
Mhm.
clues
I'm,
would say you're into basketball.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Spurs fan, so I'd love to go to the Spurs
Mm,
games.
nice.
Um, so yeah, that's and then I watch a lot of YouTube.
Okay.
I'm always trying to learn something
Mm,
new. So
So it's
nice.
interesting. Like I'm a little not shocked, but I'm a little surprised to hear that there's very little in way of entertainment, like classical entertainment, that you partake in. Like you're not vegging out, binge watching Netflix or going to movies the second they come out. Like you really have just this interesting balance, which I think is healthy. Like, I think it's a really healthy thing to be able to achieve that. What is it like? What's the best environment for you? What's the most conducive environment for you to get into this creative space as you create work when you're working with clients or working for yourself, whatever it is? What's the environment for that?
I mean, as you can see, what I surround myself with here, I surround myself with a lot of my childhood. You know, where I started. I think that's kind of the environment that kind of motivates me while I work.
Hmm.
Um,
What's your
and
one prized possession behind you? Like, what's the one thing behind you that you're just like, this is so dope?
If the house was going down and you could only
Right.
grab one thing, what's the
Yeah.
one thing you're running out with?
That's a great question. Yeah.
my my computer, but
Right. Of course. Yeah. That hard drive for sure. Yeah.
I mean, I have a up here.
We're getting a full
I
tour.
have I have a Buzz Lightyear right next to the Jesse
I
doll
see
up
it.
there.
Yeah,
If you see
in
it,
the
Oh,
box.
yeah.
there's an original Buzz Lightyear right there. I got him. I mean, I don't even remember how old I was when I got that, but my parents got him for me. But I have my name written on it. You know how Andy would
Yeah. Yeah.
write the names? Well, I wrote my name on the front of the box, and I always look at that because I'm like, dang, like I know I haven't worked on anything big for Disney, but when I made it to work with Disney
Hmm.
Plus on trailers and stuff for them, um, I was like, dang, like
You're in the
actually,
zeitgeist.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, actually, I'm in the range, right?
Hmm.
I'm in their eyesight. You know, they know me, they see me, and that's all I wanted. I just wanted to be noticed by a form of Disney, right?
Well,
That's sweet.
you're being noticed. The work that you're doing is phenomenal. It's I mean it's great. What kinds of stories would you say as we start to kind of wind down here? We've been talking a lot about stories and the importance of what you do in telling stories. But what kinds of stories do you like? Like if you could tell your own stories, we talked about maybe one day you being more involved in creating stories or maybe even directing. What kinds of stories would Chris tell?
Um, Man, that's a good question. I think something I really liked and something that I actually got to experience, like the development of it, was I think in 2013 is when Frozen came out, right?
Hmm.
And I got to see my little niece. She was little at the time. Just how much that movie impacted her as a child. I mean, she knew all
Yeah.
the words. When Elsa would sing "Let It Go," she'd be singing, and
Oh my God. You
she
heard
was
that song everywhere.
yeah, she would be doing the ice thing,
Yeah.
the everything. It completely took her over
Mm.
as a kid, and that's all she wanted to watch. I think in 2010, Toy Story 3 came out, and that's when Andy's toys almost died. Right? They were like so close to dying, and I remember sitting in the theater like, you know, why are people crying right now, or like, why am I feeling so sad for these fictional characters?
They're fictional
And
characters and their toys. It's like 2 levels removed. Yeah.
yeah, and the feeling is just so fascinating to me, and the whole storytelling aspect of everything. So I would love to be a part of stories that people resonate with,
Mm.
that people, you know, that people really enjoy and love, and make them feel the emotions, right? Emotions. And that's that I always tell my girlfriend that I like to make really sad things. Like I would love to work on really sad things.
Mm.
Every year I'm a part of acts community here for our church,
Mm.
San Antonio, and I've been on several acts retreats on their team. And something I do differently is I design their T-shirt every year. I design their name tag that they wear
Mm.
every year. There's a certain theme, and I go all out. I go everything. I do a full product design for these kids that
Nice.
come on, and I also create a little video presenting the theme for them. And something that happens every time is that people cry all the time, right? And it's not that I want to make people cry. It's just I know that they feel the feeling I felt
Yeah.
when I was creating whatever I was creating, and that's what I really really love.
Beautiful. Yeah, Sergio Pablo says something like, and I'm going to get this wrong, but he says that there's like this formula that a feature length movie has to have 34 laughs two cries, one for being sad and one for being happy, and a great big awe or something like that, right?
Yeah.
The quotes you're getting from Dave today are very elevated. There's been other episodes where he's quoted Austin Powers, so this is really you get both sides of the spectrum with Dave. And today
It's
you're really
freedom
getting
and responsibility, baby. It's a very groovy time.
you are you're getting top notch Dave today. But here's what I would say in terms of the story that you're telling with your life. You so you talked very early on about when you were in school, you were kind of taught one to be like hyper focused on one thing and to develop that one thing. And I think most of us who went to school back then, that was the method and that was the methodology and that was the philosophy of this is how you get good at one thing and you do that one thing for the rest of your life. That's
Mhm.
not the same now. That's our world is different. And so what you're doing right now, not just for those kids that you serve with every year and that you are putting your best foot forward for, but for everybody who's listening to this, is they're seeing the importance of widening your scope. And so you are part of that new generation of teachers showing the importance of being multifaceted, showing the importance of really taking on different things, taking on different skills, learning new things, never stopping with your learning and trying to be better and trying to learn new things. You are part of that story, and you are going to be the reason why some people are going to succeed in something they never thought was something they were going to be good at because of your very story. So just be aware that is what you're doing.
Super inspiring,
Thanks.
Chris.
Yeah, it absolutely is. People in the chat right now are talking about it too, and talking about how your journey is inspiring and it's amazing. And so, man, your work is fantastic. We're so proud to have you on the team, to have you on the Litro bus. Tell people where they can find you, they can follow you, they can support what you're doing out in the world.
You can find me on Instagram at the art of Chris C. My website is at theartofchrisc.com. It's not updated, so don't go off the one that's currently.
No one's ever is. That's fine. Like we've
Yeah,
learned
yeah,
this. No one's website is ever up to date. That's fine. The
but I'm mainly on Instagram, so that's where you can find me.
Awesome. So I think we're going to call this episode done for now, but here's the beautiful thing. If you want to work with someone like Chris, or if you want to work with Chris specifically, we have hundreds of incredibly talented, multifaceted, multi-skilled people within our Litro community. And all you have to do is just visit litro.com to start that story. If you want to work with us and help shape your story and help share what you're doing, if you're a marketer out there and your brand is in need of sharing stories in a new and creative and exciting way, we're here to help with that. Chris is here to help with that. And maybe you are a Chris and you're out there wondering like, hey, how can I be a part of this community of people with Dave and Chris and all these other hundreds of talented people? Just go to litro.com/4-creatives to begin that process and let us know you're out there. Start that conversation and show us your portfolio. We would love to see how you could be a part of the team. But the reality is just get out there, do the things that Chris has been talking about this whole time, right? Put your name out there, put your work out there, put your best foot forward, learn something new. And ultimately, I think you're going to see some really great things and some positive things come out of it. So thank you, Chris,
Thank
for
you, Chris.
joining us.
It was
I
great.
Thank you, guys.
I will be reaching out to you. We will be having coffee or having lunch or something because you are just down the road from me. So
Yeah, nice.
we've got new friends. We're gonna hang out maybe when the weather's not quite so weird.
If you're competing again, maybe go see the competition. Might be fun to go and root for you.
Absolutely, yeah. Let me know when that is. But for now, until next week, everybody, let's get creative. We'll see you later on.